Well, come on in, everyone. Come on in because we're back. I'm caught up with Married at First Sight, season 20, episode 3. I know you guys were all one episode ahead of me, but I have caught up with all of y'all on episode 3, season 20, with this Peacock on. We done switched over from Lifetime to Peacock. We done switched over from Pastor Cow, Dr. Pepper. Um, what was the other expert's name? I forget her name already. And we're now over here with Paul Brunson and this Liz lady. Have they done any better? Doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. We start off the episode telling Miss Nikki, breathe, girl, breathe, 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 breathe. Here's what I'm gonna say, Nikki. I was hard on you last episode because I thought you were rude. I'm not going to take that back. I'm not going to take it back, Nikki. I do think that you're rude. But, Nikki, I saw a whole lot more from Shawn. So here's what I'm going to say. Nikki, you are rude. And I'm going to tell you, I already know you ain't going to stay with Shawn. Ain't no way you're going to stay with Shawn. I don't believe it. But going forward, you're going to have to fix the rudeness. You really going to have to fix the rudeness. And the sort of like, I don't know what it is. It's an air. It's a turn off. It's going to be a turn off to a lot of people. So you're going to have to fix that. But you was rude before that man even started really talking. That's why I can't say your rudeness is in response to anything I'm going to say about him today, because I think you just came with it point blank, period. So that's going to tell you what you need to work on. I'm also going to disagree with the audience that Nikki got cheated. I'm going to say no. No. Everyone on this show, all of them, none of them have gotten 100% of what they wanted. And right now, what Nikki doesn't like about Shawn, prior to him even opening his mouth, doing anything, is she probably didn't like that brown jacket. I ain't gonna lie. Not too many people would. That was an interesting, in a not a good way, an interesting choice to wear, a color to wear, brown. Why would you wear brown as your wedding color? Are you trying to stand out? Are you trying to show that you're different? You got style, you got pizzazz. I'm not for sure what that meant. But even a couple who I think is doing well, which is Cameron and Michelle. We're going to talk about that later. She even compromised because she's been given a man. She said she wanted a rich man. That's what her mama said when they was getting ready. She wanted him tall and she wanted him rich. Now, did she want him this tall? I don't think so, because they look kind of awkward. But Michelle is hanging in there. And I think she wanted him rich. And I know right now that Cameron, who is a community head coach of a basketball team, maybe one or a couple of years into his contract, he doesn't make a whole lot of money. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Michelle, being a program or product manager, whatever they are, if she doesn't make more than him. So I don't want to hear that no one over here has compromised or they're asking them to compromise. And so when I look at Miss Nikki out the gate, yeah, Miss Nikki, you got to compromise on the height. But once I saw them walking down the aisle, I realized Miss Nikki must be really short, because Shawn said he's only 5'6", and we know how men kind of lie about their height. So more than likely, Shawn ain't even 5'6". He might be 5'5", which means even Nikki with her shoes on was kind of like eye level to Shawn. So that tells me Miss Nikki is a very short lady. She's got to be only 5'2", 5'3" at the most. So I don't really know why she needs a 6-foot guy anyway. So Miss Nikki, I'm gonna need you after this, because we already know you ain't gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. You don't even like the guy. You're gonna need to look further in terms of what you want, because I'll say this. I know Miss Nikki, you're 48. You still want a baby, so you need to find a man that's 48 that isn't done having children. A lot of men, Miss Nikki, have had children and they don't want no more at 48. They're trying to march towards retirement. Okay. You might need to find you a like Sweet Tea over there on Married to Medicine. Dr. G, who still wants to have a baby at darn near 60. Doesn't mean that they can still have them medically. But a lot of people understand now that children cost a lot of money. And to start having a child at 50 really prolongs your retirement. It really does, Miss Nikki. So I don't know where you're going to find this man that makes 350, still wants to have children, who's over 6 feet, and all these things that you want. I just don't know where you're going to find it. Honestly, even with what I'm going to talk about with Mr. Shawn, he actually probably could find a short 5'1", 5'2" woman that's in her 30s who is in the beginning of her career, and she'd be very happy with a man making $200,000, which I guess that's what Shawn has to at least make, because that was your bottom, that was your minimum, and have a baby with him and be happy. I actually think, I know y'all don't want to hear this, but of the two, I think it's going to be easier for Shawn to do that. Now, what I want to talk about is, Mr. Shawn, why haven't you found a bride all these years? I said it last week that yeah, I got a red flag for Nikki, but considering the men are the ones who actually sort of start the pursuit, who ask the woman to marry, sure, women have to say yes to a man on whether they want to marry the man, but they can't say yes unless a man asks. So a man still has to go first for most parts, unless you're in like a same-sex relationship, then all rules are out. I guess anyone could ask anyone. But so I want to say, Mr. Shawn, what's going on with you? Now, I guess some people call him metrosexual. I've heard in my comments, all of y'all believe Shawn is zesty. I'm not going to say that, y'all, because there's nothing that Shawn has said to allude to that. And I find it very interesting that we got a man on here whose nails are painted, and that's in the form of Mecca, right? But yet the people we think are batting for the same team is Shawn. I think women really need, and I want to say this, maybe I'm talking about Black women, we need to really stop being so quick to call men gay, especially when these men may not have over masculine qualities. That's fine. I see what you're talking about, but I'm not going to go so far as to call them gay. Just like if I see a woman who has masculine tendencies, I'm not going to call her gay. Courtney, who's sitting on here, this show, she got a lot of masculine qualities, but I'm not going to call her gay, right? There's a lot of women who have masculine qualities that I'm not going to call them gay. So I really don't, I'm not for calling men, especially Black men, so quick to call them gay, because they're not representing this strong, toxic masculinity in some ways that a lot of people are used to. And I haven't got enough indication of that, but yet a person like Mecca can wear fingernail polish and people tell me, oh, that's just expressions. That's what young people do today. It's kind of getting weird. You know, this happened last time when we had another really educator on the show. Did any of you remember Kirsten and Shaq? And a lot of people, because he was metrosexual and he liked to dress and he was a bit flamboyant in his dress and he was an educator and he was in that field and he was around mentoring younger people. So that younger people kept calling him that he was batting for the same team. I didn't agree with it then. And ain't nothing come out in any time saying that he is. So I'm not going to roll with that. You know, I'm going to let y'all do your thing. You do your thing. But right now, I'm not going to roll with that unless Shawn gives me more information. I'm not. In fact, on this show, Nikki was saying she needed to turn down the sexual heat that Shawn was trying to turn up. She said, you need to turn that temperature down, way, way down, way, 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 way down. But I'm going to say this about their vows. I really liked Nikki's speech and they weren't really vows. They were more like speeches. And which I think is interesting. They're not really doing vows. They're doing speeches, telling me about yourself, right? But I thought Nikki's speech was fantastic. I really, really did. She talks about how she likes to try new things. I don't know, Nikki. I don't know. It doesn't really sound like you do like to try new things. Not when it comes to dating. Maybe, like you said, you like to try skiing and golfing, right? And I think a lot of ways Nikki says those types of things because she wants to appear as if she's evolved. Come on, Nikki. I understand the coding. I hear it. I hear the little coding that you use to sort of elevate yourself amongst the masses. I know the rumor, the stereotypes in the Black community is that we don't ski, we don't golf, we don't do these things. So you want to set yourself apart as if you're an elevated person. I hear it. That's why I'm not a particular fan of Nikki's, right? I'm really not. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. But I'm going to give her credit where credit is due, and her speech about what she wanted in a relationship in terms of the connection and going forward. I thought it was great. Now, whose speech I didn't like was Mr. Shawn's. Come on, Mr. Shawn. In a lot of ways, these two are two peas in a pod, because just as much as I'm calling Nikki pretentious, Mr. Shawn met her toe for toe. Because when that man got up there and started talking about all of his accomplishments and that he was a doctor, I said that's misleading. That's misleading. And even Nikki was misled. Because let's be truthful. If someone stands in front of you and they say they're a doctor without clarifying that what they really have is a doctorate. Okay, and I'm not going to say that you're not a doctor because you have a doctorate in education. What I'm saying is that when people hear I'm a doctor, everyone's first inclination is that you're a medical doctor. Okay, some may think, okay, you could be a psychiatric doctor in that type of medicine. But most people don't go to, you've got a doctorate in philosophy or you've got a doctorate in education. So it's misleading. And you intentionally meant to mislead Shawn to impress her. And she was impressed at that altar. I think that's what kind of turned her around a little bit, because we saw that when she first got up there, she had zero interest in him. But once he started talking about that he was a doctor, there was a part of Nikki that sort of lit up. You know, she's like, oh, maybe I could deal with this 5'6" man because he's a doctor. But once they jumped over the broom and he explained that, well, let me be clear, it's a doctorate of education, her lips got pursed. You know how we do as women. When what we want to say, we can't let it out. So what we do is we make our lips real tight so the words can't get out. That's what Miss Nikki did. Because what she really wanted to say to him is you're a lie and you're fake and you're a fraud, because you wanted everybody to believe up there that you was like a medical doctor. You didn't say it. I understand you didn't say it, but you knew, you intelligent enough to know what you did. And so I really didn't like his speech, honestly, where he led with his accomplishments. And I felt like Nikki in that moment, she kind of actually led with her heart. She actually didn't lead too much with her accomplishments. And so I think that was great. But in that moment, I felt like she did even better than Mecca. He asked her, can I give you a kiss? And she's like, yeah, I'll kiss you, because at this moment, I actually think you're a medical doctor. So I'm going to give you a kiss. And they got to go ahead and they got to jump over the broom, which was cute. And she said some nice things. She said he's awesome and he has kind eyes and he has a nice smile. And she said she is a sapiosexual. So she was willing to give the intellect part of him, because now she believes he's a medical doctor. She was able to give the intellect portion of him an opportunity, a small glimmer of hope. There was a small window. It was such a small window. And the window only lasted from the altar to that bench, because once they got back to the bench and he clarified that he was not a medical doctor, but an educational doctor, the door closed. The door closed. Not only did it close, her legs closed, everything closed altogether. And I'm going to tell you this, Dr. Shawn, not Dr. Well, yeah, I'm going to call you Dr. Shawn because you are a doctor, like you said, Mr. Shawn, Dr. Shawn. Once you sat down on that bench, I was turned off further. And let me tell you why I was turned off. Men, listen to this. You putting down other women is not a compliment to us. Let me say that. Maybe some women are complimented by it. Let me tell you, I'm not. So when he sat down there and said, he gave that whole speech about why he hasn't found a wife prior to this moment, when he too is darn near 50 years old, or half a century. Let's be real. 50 years old is half of a century. Let's put that in perspective. 50 years old is half a century. And when you get on here, Dr. Shawn, and say you haven't found a wife or a bride in half a century, and you start talking about how you want a woman that needs to be a 10 out of 10 on all levels, you sounding just like Nikki. This is why I'm now gonna keep my foot off Nikki's neck, because although I do think she's rude and I do think she's pretentious, I'm gonna let her loose on Shawn. Yep, I'm gonna let her loose. I'm gonna let her loose because I don't like Shawn either. I think he's pretentious, and he sat there and talked about if she ain't a 10 on all levels, but if she's a 10 intellectually and I'm not attracted, she fine and everything, but that ain't good enough for me. You know different than Nikki. You two are unaware. So, Shawn, you're going to have to compromise too. You're going to have to settle too. And maybe what you'll have to settle for is you'll have to settle for maybe a woman that maybe is not as mature as you, right? There'll be something. And because, yeah, you will be able to give women nice things because you make good salary. But as everyone is talking out here in the world about that your sort of metrosexual or your sort of feminine ways is a turnoff, you'll have to find a woman who's willing to overlook that, right? So the top of the food chain women that you're talking about, the 10 out of 10 intellectually, the 10 out of 10 intellectually and career-wise and looks-wise, they won't have to settle if they don't want to for this sort of thing that the women out here are saying, So you too will need to settle. And I think the problem with both Shawn and Nikki is they both don't want to do that. They both don't want to do it. So I'm not for sure where they're going to land. But Miss Nikki, she says that she felt that there was some compatibility, but we know it ain't enough compatibility for you to say yes to this man on decision day. You're not going to say yes. In fact, Uncle Mike with Shawn tried to tell him to slow it down, give the woman some time to breathe. Don't go into this honeymoon suite and try to be turning it on. Even taking off that garter off Nikki's leg was a little bit too much for Nikki. It was a little bit too much for her. She actually didn't even want you to touch her, let alone touch her with your mouth, your teeth, anything. And them moves you was doing, them moves, they weren't sexy either, Dr. Shawn. None of it was sexy. None of it was sexy. And she said, I want to take it slow. She told her friends, no, I'm taking it slow. He'd be lucky to get a kiss on the cheek in this honeymoon suite. Shawn feels like he's won the lottery. Well, I don't know what kind of lottery you won, Shawn. It ain't the Powerball jackpot. It really ain't. Maybe it's the lottery where you got a free lottery ticket. You're a scratch off with a free lottery ticket. Because when they finally got to this honeymoon suite, she said, well, there's a lot of couches in here, and one of them got your name on it, but I'm going to let you sleep in the bed. But you got to wear your full robe to sleep. These folks was getting in the bed with a full-on robe. Not pants and a shirt. They went to bed with pants, a shirt, a robe on the outside. I'm surprised that Nikki didn't make the man wrap himself in some saran wrap. This was wild. This was so wild. They both had 5 layers of cover over them. They probably put pillows in between them. I ain't gonna lie. They probably put pillows in it. And all of that, Shawn trying to push the envelope to get a little bit more intimacy with Miss Nikki. She said, no, not now. Not now. Nikki's making it clear. She ain't Nikki from the Prince song. Y'all remember Nikki from Prince? Nikki is making sure you know. I ain't that Nikki, not at all. You're going to need to keep on this robe, put about 5 layers of cover over you, wrap yourself in some saran wrap, and then I'll let you get in this bed. At this point, she didn't even give him a kiss again. She said, we don't need to keep kissing. What for? What for? It's a hard stop for you, Shawn. It is a hard, and we saw the previews. I saw the previews coming up, and I guess the part that's going to keep me interested in watching Miss Nikki and Shawn are going to be the fireworks when Miss Nikki is going to keep her foot on his neck, and Shawn is going to have to fight for his life because Nikki going to let it rip. So I really think the only part that's going to be interesting about these two is seeing how low can they go. How low can they go? Will Miss Nikki be able to maintain professionalism and maintain the Michelle Obama facade? And when they go low, you go high? Or will these two highly accomplished professional people lose it and go low? That's all I got to wait for now, because we know they're not going to say yes at the altar. That's over with. That fantasy for us, the audience, is gone. But now what I'm here watching for is, how low will they go? Will they go all the way to hell, or will they keep it cute, and will they keep it classy? Because that little snippet we saw of upcoming episodes, it sounded like it was starting to go low. It was starting to really, really go low. And I want to know if Nikki gonna start rolling her eyes and rolling her neck at the same time. So we're gonna have to see, y'all. We're gonna have to see. But we're gonna move on. We're going to move on to a new couple we got to see, which was Caitlyn and Devin. Okay. My screen is kind of messed up. Okay. We're going to move on to Caitlyn and Devin. And we got to see a new couple, professional rugby player. And I guess my question now is, you know how we gave Mecca's dad such a hard time for standing up? Do you think the producers told Mecca's dad to stand up and give a speech? Probably, because they figured that Mecca's dad was a fool, and they wanted to create another fool moment, and so they gave him the mic. Because they did the same thing with Caitlyn's dad. Now, Caitlyn's dad, I understand she's a daddy's girl, but once again, we got another father over here doing too much. He did too much. He really, really did too much. Which tells me, it's kind of making me worried a little bit about Caitlyn. Okay? Because I'm telling you, we don't just come into this world and then form our own personalities, which we do. Our personalities are also shaped by our parents. So when you have certain personalities in your house growing up, they can influence you different kind of ways. You never know how it's going to influence you, but it can influence you. That's why as you become adult, a lot of the times you have to spend some time shedding some of the personality traits you might have picked up from your parents, because some of those personality traits don't serve you well, right? And so if you don't take time to figure out, what did I pick up from my parents that might be holding me back to reaching the levels I want to do, then you just that's how you keep creating the generational stuff. So I really want to see, with a parent, a father like Caitlyn's, whose mother obviously knows who her husband is because she keeps her mouth shut. I want to know who Caitlyn turns out to be, right? Does she turn out to be the person who is like her mother, who will be able to keep her mouth shut with her husband, Devin? Or will Caitlyn be the person where, because she saw her mother keep her mouth shut so much, she decides that when I get married, I'm not going to be that woman, and I'm going to open up my mouth and I'm going to talk? And does she overcompensate? Does she talk too much? Right? That's going to be interesting to see, because Devin is right now coming off as, he says, I'm a professional rugby player, which is kind of a rough and tumble guy. But he said on the inside, he's a big teddy bear. So it's going to be interesting to see how is the best way to relate to Devin. Do you relate to him as the big rough and tumble guy, or do you relate to the inner teddy bear? And is he describing himself correctly? I don't know. He said He said his father abandoned him, right? Both he and his mama. And he said he don't have no respect for a man who did that. And Caitlyn has said she's been in every sort of toxic relationship you can think of. Men who cheated, men who, every stereotype, liars, cheaters, I don't know, everything. She said all of them, all of them. And she wants her softer side to be able to come out, which means she feels as if it hasn't been able to come out, which means that's interesting because, like I tell you, what influence has her father's personality had on her? She's a girl dad. It's really going to be interesting to see. But all Caitlyn's dad did was cuss up a storm, talk about how he's pissed, so much so that he refused to walk his daughter down the aisle. That was very telling. In one way, you say you're protective over your daughter, you love your daughter, but you didn't even want to walk, you refused to walk her down the aisle because you disagreed with what she was doing. So, Father, is your love and support conditional that unless you do what I want you to do, then I'm not going to support you? Because that's what it looked like, right? That's kind of what it looked like. I don't like what you're doing, so I ain't going to walk you down the aisle. In fact, you got up and made a whole speech saying, at first I wasn't even going to come. Well, maybe you shouldn't have come. Now, in hindsight, looking at it, because the way you showed up, your ass could have stayed home. I didn't like one bit of it. I didn't want like one bit of it. It's like we got another father on here with no emotional regulation. Mecca's father, no emotional regulation, just none whatsoever, you know? And Caitlyn's father is like that, no emotional regulation. So Caitlyn, I hope you didn't pick that up from your daddy. No emotional regulation. I hope you didn't pick that up from your daddy, because I'm going to tell you right now, when you guys were at the altar and you were doing all this kind of stuff, it was kind of giving me that you're of the two, you're more aligned with your father's personality. Just off the rip. Now, I could be wrong. It was coming off as if you're more aligned with your daddy's personality, which if it is, I think the adventurous side is going to be great for, what's his name? Devin, because he's a rugby player. He's probably going to want an outdoorsy girl, a risk taker girl. But what I'm wondering is, when you say you haven't been able to be softer, is it because the men haven't let you be softer, or you not really soft yourself? It's going to be interesting. Really, really interesting. But yeah, that daddy, not a fan. Now, another father I'm not a fan of. Go sit down. Go sit down. Okay? We got to double on back and see a little bit more of Michelle and Cameron. The dancing was a little bit awkward, the height difference. It was. But I'm still thumbs up on this couple. I really am. You know what? I liked that Cameron brought up his own red flags, right? And it is a red flag that he's never been in a relationship past 6 months. And Michelle acknowledged that it was a red flag, or at least a yellow flag, okay? Can't nobody tell me it's a green flag when you this old and never been in a relationship more than 6 months. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, okay? Because I'm going to need some proof that you know how to get along with a person longer than 6 months. I am. I'm going to need proof that you know how to get along with a person more than 6 months, okay? I'm not saying you had to have been married. I'm not saying you had to have been engaged. But I want you to have gone through some relationship things first. It's no different if I was hiring you for a job. I want some job experience. I do. If you don't have no job experience, then you need to just go to McDonald's, Burger King, do something like that to get some experience before I hire you for a top high-paying job like marriage. Marriage is a high, top-paying job, okay? It's serious business. It's serious work going inside of a marriage. And I'm going to need more than 6 months experience of relationship experience. So any of you drop it down in my comments saying it shouldn't be a red flag, go on over there. I'm going to tell anyone else, though, do not marry a person who doesn't have more than 6 months relationship experience. What you're going to need to do is you can date them. If they don't have no relationship experience and you want to give them relationship experience, just like, let's say someone comes along that doesn't have any job experience, right? I might be willing to try you out as an intern, as a temporary employee, right? As a minimum wage employee because my risk is low. I'm paying you minimum wage, you a temp. I can fire you anytime I want to, right? I'm not going to give you no big task. And I can do that for a period of time. And if then you prove me wrong, I can hire you on full time. So if you're a person with no relationship experience, 6 months at his age, doesn't mean you're undateable. That's fine. I can date you, but I'm not going to marry you in any time less than a year because I'm going to need for you to get some relationship experience, and I'm going to need to see how you do that. So kudos to Michelle, who, as Nikki would say, I wouldn't want to settle. She's settling right now for a man with no experience. She is, because she's going to have to teach him some things he doesn't even know. But at least he's willing to admit that it ain't a green flag. At least he's not walking around here delusional, and he's honest. So I actually appreciated that about him, right? And Michelle's brother, when he talked about her, he portrayed her like she likes to go to Disneyland and karaoke bars till 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two bond together. Maybe she'll bring some fun to Cameron's life because he does appear a little bit stiff, right? And maybe Michelle will bring the fun because that's what her brother said he does. And I'm going to tell you, these combinations sometimes work out well because a guy like Cameron, who might have some social awkwardness to him, he may need a fun person to bring the fun to the relationship. And what I'm wondering, though, then, is what does Cameron provide to Michelle? Will he provide the stability that she wants? She's already said she wants a man who's committed. Okay, so if he can at least bring the commitment, which is Michelle has said is her number one thing, commitment, which he says that's what he's coming with. I feel hopeful for these two because they are bonding on a very foundational principle, which is they really are tired of dating people who don't want a seriousness. And Cameron finds it awkward to find people. So I'm sure he does want to be in a committed relationship. So Michelle said she was in a 3-year relationship and then she broke it up. So it took her 3 years to realize that the guy she was with and was going to be engaged to isn't the same guy she should marry. So we're going to need you and Michelle to do that a little quicker here. Okay, you're not going to have 3 years. You're going to only have whatever this is, 8 weeks. And then you're going to have to decide, are you all in or all out? But I think they're both going to give it their all. I really do believe they're going to give it all. And Michelle is saying, they both were saying when they got in that bed in the honeymoon that they're feeling safe. Safe space, safe space. So still 2 thumbs up on Michelle and Cameron. 2 thumbs up. Bel Jolie and Mecca. Nothing in this episode made me think any better of them. In fact, it just kept getting worse. Because now I see the degree of the influence that this daddy has on Mecca, and he doesn't know how to draw any boundaries on his own fathers. We're talking about, do you want to stay married or get divorced at the end of Married at First Sight? Can we divorce fathers? Can they divorce fathers? Because if they can divorce fathers, then I'm going to advocate for Mecca to divorce his daddy. Because this daddy, the way he talks about Mecca is really out of line. And the way he talks about Bel Jolie is out of line too. Oh, she got baby fever. She got baby fever. Look at her. Stop talking about her womb. Stop talking about her looks. Stop talking about physical and intimacy with this woman. Stop it. This is so out of alignment. And you are a principal at a high school. Okay, people need to keep eyes on him in that high school or wherever he is. They need to keep eyes on him because I'm concerned about who Mecca's daddy is. And I'm concerned about who he is, period. And I'm really concerned with how he's raised his son. And this is a problem. This is a part. He said, I'm having more fun at this wedding than I thought I would. It ain't even about you. Who gives a care if you're having fun? It's not about you, daddy. Ugh. Go call him a Uber. He said he's feeling good about her family and her. Who cares? He act like it's his own wedding. He said, you might need to hang on to her. He said, if you're up to it, you might want to go on and clap in them sheets later on tonight. So that's so inappropriate. And Mecca just sits there and laughs. He don't have no boundaries with his father. At this point in time, you should be telling him to say, absolutely stop that. Stop that. Bel Jolie, you're not going to get no protection from that daddy because Mecca can't even protect himself from his father. You was up there trying to protect Mecca from his father last week when that father was roasting him. If Mecca can't protect himself from his father, how the heck is he going to protect you out here from his father and from other men? Girl, you out here with no covering whatsoever. No covering whatsoever. That man even went to say that you had an erection when you were standing up there. I saw the Pope coming through. Is Mecca, someone needs to Google him to see if he's even on a list of predators in the neighborhood. That's what I'm going to say. Because the fact that you're so comfortable saying these sorts of things on national TV when you got a mic on and you have millions of people watching you and you have no emotional regulation, tongue regulation, none of that. What I'm also thinking about is, what do you say when there is no camera on you? None whatsoever. He's disrespectful. He's inappropriate. He's rude. He's condescending. He's damaging. He's hurtful. So I already know that there is no way that Bel Jolie is going to be able to erase, or as Liz or what the matchmaker say, erase, overcome all the childhood programming. She can't do this. The type of, Mecca needs years of therapy to undo this. And he can't even begin to heal until he divorces that daddy. At very least, he needs a separation from the father, right? He needs to start putting distance between him and that father. And he may believe that the problem is his estranged mother, his bio mother that left him. And so now he's estranged not only from the bio mother, he's estranged from the grandmother. I'm 99.5% sure the reason why he's estranged from his bio mother and his grandmother is because of that daddy. That mother and that grandmother don't want to have nothing to do with that daddy, period, point blank. And that's why they're estranged. Okay? I guarantee it. So, Mecca, you're going to also have to reconcile any type of maybe hurt you have for your mother. And you're going to have to put it in context with who she was married to and who she fathered a child with, who she mothered a child with, which was your daddy. You might need to give her a little bit of slack. I'm not saying it's right for a mama to abandon her child and be estranged, but you might need to go back and hear the whole story. A lot of times children don't know the whole stories of why their parents divorced. They only get to hear one side of the story. And I suspect that the stories that this father has told Mecca is one-sided. One-sided. You might need to go get the truth so then you can take that truth, Mecca, to therapy so somebody can help you. Because you're in danger. You're in danger. You know how they say stranger danger? No. You are in danger in your own house, Mecca. Hear me well. You are in danger in your own house. Call 911. 911. We got to circle around. We're going to keep it moving. We got to circle around back to Nick and Courtney. It's not going to work. It's not going to work one bit. One bit. And Courtney not going to like Nick because Courtney's real serious. She's a little too serious, to be honest with you. So, like I said, she's a little too serious. And Nick is all the way on the unserious side. These are two people on two opposite ends of the pole. In addition to that, Nick is over there smiling at Courtney. But I'm going to say this. When Nikki took off that makeup and she took off them extensions. When he said, oh, your hair is long, she needs those extensions. Courtney, I'm not going to lie, girl. It was a little bit of a difference. Let me stop lying. It was a big difference. The no makeup look and the makeup look, it was a big difference. Now, Miss Nikki, on the other hand, the no makeup look and the look, let me tell you, Miss Nikki, you got it going on, girl. You got it going on. Flawless skin. But Courtney, I'm not going to lie to you, girl. Even with the tan lines, the white around the eyes, but the tan face, Nick was sitting there shocked. He was in that bathroom mirror, and you thought he was sitting there admiring you. But what he was doing what he does well. He fakes it. He was faking not being shocked by the afterlook. So this not going to make it. Courtney believes that she is going to be the one that rejects Nikki. And maybe what Courtney will do is fake it all along so that Nikki can feel like she rejected. Courtney can feel like she rejected Nick. But Nick don't really want Courtney. He not going to like nothing about. I don't even know how these two line up on paper. They don't line up on paper. They don't. So this is going nowhere. I hate to say it. It's absolutely going nowhere. And Courtney is kind of a negative thinker too. She really is. She kind of her own worst enemy. You know, that's what I'm saying. Even with this match, it wasn't the good match for her. But Courtney got some things she need to work out. She really is a negative thinker. And their sort of moments are very awkward. Very, very, honestly, it's given auntie nephew vibes. I don't even know if these two are the same age because really Courtney appears a good 10 years older than Nick. Is it because Nick's immature and Courtney is overly mature? Because I'm telling you, these two physically, when you put them next to each other and their mindsets and the way they move, I feel like a 10 to 15 year age gap. And it ain't good on both ends. Nick needs to grow up a bit more. And Courtney, she kind of old. It was really giving auntie vibes, real auntie vibes. But we're going to cycle through Felipe and Tori. Like I said, I'm sticking with what I believe, which is Felipe going to be all in, and the wild card is going to be Tori. She's really holding the power. And I'm going to tell you where I felt this episode. At first, I was, will Tori like? Episode 1, I was like, will Tori like Felipe? Then she was like, oh yeah, he's cute, he's hot. I was like, okay, Tori, well, I'll believe you, but something about all the other fakeness to you feels fake. And so I don't really believe your words, but I'm gonna give you a chance. Second episode, I'm like, okay, she's staying consistent. She still looks like she's interested in him. So okay, good. This could look good. This episode, what ended up happening to me was I went back to the fakeness because what I start to feel like, okay, Tori, it's almost too good to be true. And you know what really did it for me, y'all, was when Felipe say it's tradition in a Brazilian household that when you cut the cake, you give up the cake to the most important person in your life. And he gave the piece of cake to Tori. And everyone was like, oh, that's so sweet. But then what Tori did was and what some people can consider a very sweet moment, she went and took the cake and gifted the cake to her new mother-in-law. Some people on the outside could say that was a very sweet gesture. And she gives these really warm embraces, kind of like what her sister said about her. It's almost like a motherly love. So now what I'm wondering, Tori, is what I'm seeing now, this care and consideration that you're giving to Felipe in this moment and to his mother and his family, because it is sweetness. Is it because that's who you are and that's how you treat others, which is great. But what that would mean is it's not special for Felipe. See what I'm saying? Because Felipe gave you a special piece of cake that said he felt you were the most important person. But instead of holding on to it as your gift and holding on to what he's kind of give you, a piece of him, a piece of his love, in that moment, you naturally gave it away. So if Tori, you are a natural caregiver, like your sister said, and you are a natural person who likes to give, then what I'm saying is, then I can't mistake your giving to Felipe as part because you actually really like him. Now I'm wondering, Tori, is your care and concern Felipe going to transition to the type of love you need between a husband and wife? The amorous type of love, not the friendly type of love, or the type of love you seem to be able to freely give to everyone. Can it turn into the special type of love you'll have for your husband? So Tori, unfortunately, I'm back where I was beginning, which is, I don't know if it will, Tori. I'm starting to believe what I thought in the episode, that you are going to say no at the very end. You're never going to say anything bad about Felipe. You may never ever bring up anything that you don't like about him, because I think he's going to work really hard and try to change everything about himself that you don't like. And even when he does that, it won't be enough for you. That's what I'm predicting. That's what I'm seeing. But we'll see. Marissa and Adam, I'm still a thumbs down on them, because I think what Adam wants is a person that will kind of just be his twin, his clone. And I just don't see Marissa being that. She's popping fireball shots. Like, come on, fireball shots. I just don't see them being compatible. And I don't see her falling into his lifestyle. He's very regimented, very regimented. And I don't see her being able to lose so much of who she is in order to please him. And I think he's going to want to be that person. I really do. And I'm going to go back to their very first encounter. Redos don't work. This man didn't call her for a reason when they met for that brief time in the bar. He didn't call her because more than likely he was turned off then by her drinking. So why now would he overlook it? But I'm going to stick with what I say, and that is, he will sleep with her. He absolutely will. He will sleep with her. And then when decision day comes, he will say no. And he'll do her just like he did that girl in the interview process, and called and told her that, I know I strung you along, and I cooked you dinner, and I invited you over my house, and I did all these things, but in the end, I don't want to be married to you. And that's what he's going to do to Marissa. I'm sticking to my original gut feeling. I really, really am. Who else we got to talk about? So we talked about, looks like we covered everybody. Looks like I covered everyone. There ain't no stone left unturned. I don't see it. I really don't. I think I covered everyone. But let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Am I on track, off track? I know y'all gonna have a lot to say about what I said about Dr. Shawn and Miss Nikki. So I can't wait to hear what y'all got to say. But keep it cute. Don't be rude in my comments. I love to hear different opinions, but y'all ain't got to be rude. Don't be Miss Nikki. Just because you don't like someone, just because you don't like their views, you do not have to be rude, okay? Keep it classy. Don't be rolling your neck and rolling your eyes down in my comments. Talk to y'all later. Bye.